All right, let's get started. Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining today for our Amazon Profit Analytics webinar. I'm really excited to have you on. My name is Shane. I am the director at Fetcher. At Fetcher, we're all about taking the raw data in Seller Central and making sense of it so that Amazon sellers can make good business decisions. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, how to make sense of that raw data and how to calculate your 2016 profits accurately. Accurately being the key word. So a bit more about me. After I graduated from college, I went into the military. So I was an infantry officer in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I took the leadership experience I had there and I went up to Silicon Valley and I was working for a big company, a big tech company. I thought it was the greatest thing until I realized that I was probably going to have to put in a decade of time before I was going to have real influence and real impact. And that wasn't fast enough for me, I guess. That's how I found the Amazon FBA space. I wanted to be my own boss and start making money and start making business decisions right out of the gate. And I'm probably similar to a lot of you guys in that sense. So I've been an Amazon seller for a bunch of years now, but it wasn't long after I started that I realized there was a gap. Seller Central is a bit of a mess. It's really hard to translate all of the files and reports and data in there and find out what your true profits are and therefore make good business decisions with accurate numbers. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So whether you're an FBA seller or an FBM seller, fulfillment by merchant, or a retail arbitrage seller, we've got you covered with some really high quality content today, and we are going to dive deep. So stick with us as we get into the content. I want to let everybody know that I'm going to be making a few offers throughout the day. So I've got a giveaway coming up in about 15 minutes for everyone who's listening in live right now. And then at the very end of this webinar, I'm going to have an exclusive offer just for those in attendance today. So stick around as we dive in, and it's going to be fun. What were your profits in 2016? Sounds like a simple question, but you can see there by the statistic on the slide, 80% of all Amazon sellers say they're not confident in their profit calculations for 2016. Now that's a scary statistic, but it's not one that surprises me, because to be honest with you guys, I was also calculating my profits inaccurately. I didn't have good confidence in my profit calculations for at least the first 6 months of my time as an Amazon seller. And then it wasn't until a little while later that I realized that in my mess of Excel files and various macro calculations that I was running, I was completely leaving out shipping credit refunds, which had thrown off my profit calculation by a few $1,000s over the course of a year. So let that be sort of a scary example of why it's not that hard to screw up your profit calculations. Today, I'm going to make it easy for you. We're going to look at the data and I'm going to show you how to calculate your 2016 profits correctly. And then at the end of the webinar, I'm going to go over some top tips and tricks for improving your profits for 2017. Okay, so let's get into some more detail. What are we going to cover in more depth today? Well, we're going to talk about the two major buckets, of course. That's sales and that's expenses. And then you can see each one of the categories that we're going to cover. And by covering all 5 of those sales categories and all 4 of those expenses categories, we will have then looked at all of the components that go into a true profit calculation for Amazon sellers. And you can see there that I've highlighted the refunds portion, something we're going to cover under the sales section, because I'm going to have a special offer in about 10 minutes related to ways to cut down refunds. All right, starting with sales. Here you can see our units sold and revenue dashboard. This is the very common sales dashboard that everyone's familiar with inside of Seller Central. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested at all in understanding where this data is coming from, some of this is my personal data from my personal Seller Central accounts. So there you have it. All right, so to get here, you're going to go to Reports, Business Reports, and then your Sales Dashboard. And it's really good because it shows you your ordered sales and your ordered units across your entire business line. So for a big high-level summary, this is a way to look at your units sold and revenue. However, it doesn't break out your units sold and revenue by product. So that's a little bit of a problem, considering that sales are really the lifeblood of your business. So we're going to need to get into some more detail. In order to do that, we're going to have to get into some of the mega reports. So let's go there now. First report we're looking at is the settlement report, also known as the flat file. In order to get here in Seller Central, you go to Reports, Payments, All Statements, and then on the right-hand margins, you'll be able to download flat file for whatever statement period you want to look at. Okay, so we're looking at the settlement report, And what's most important here to call out is the fact that the data here is reconciled, whereas the sales dashboard is not reconciled. And what I mean by that is Amazon has actually reviewed the data, and once it goes into the settlement report, it is 100% or should be 100% accurate and reflective of what you're going to get paid by Amazon at the end of the period. The sales dashboard, not so much. Okay, so remember how I told you that the sales dashboard, or at least we looked at how the sales dashboard shows ordered product sales. Well, what if an order gets canceled by a customer before it ships? You may know that if an order does get canceled before it ships, then that revenue just disappears. You're not going to actually see that revenue as the seller. So true revenue isn't realized until a unit ships. So here, what we're looking at in the settlement report, all this reconciled data is shipped data, meaning all of the orders have shipped, all of the revenue is been realized, and it's going to get paid to you at the end of the period. So that's not true of the sales dashboard, and a major reason why the settlement report is much more substantial, much more comprehensive. So you can see that we're looking here in the fourth column over the number of quantity purchased. So that's where you can get units sold. Just sum up that column. And then 6 rows over, you can see the price amount. If you summarize that, then you're going to get revenue. So very quickly and easily, you can get units sold and revenue. The next component to consider and summarize are promo rebates, those products that you gave away at a discount that are obviously affecting total sales because you gave them away at a discount. Here you can see all of our promo sales, or the promo rebates rather, in the statement view. So to get to the statement view, you simply click on reports and you can see the statement view. A quick and easy snapshot. If you want to go into more detail, again, I highly recommend the settlement report, much more comprehensive, and you'll see a line-by-line case of each one of the promotion IDs that you gave away. So what you're going to want to do there is filter on the column labeled AE at the top and filter on promotion ID, and you'll see a list of all of your discounts during this defined date range. Still under sales, we've got reimbursements. So to get to this reimbursements report, it's accessible from the transaction report. So we're going to go there later. But you could also go to the reimbursements report, which is a really awesome report specific to reimbursements, obviously. You're going to search reimbursements report in the Seller Central search bar, and you'll click the link through, and you'll quickly get to this very specific report. And one thing that I like about this report is it determines whether you're receiving a financial reimbursement or an inventory reimbursement, which is also very common in Amazon. So you can see that all the items that I've selected here in yellow were customer returns where I actually received a quantity reimbursement. So there was a financial impact where Amazon put money back into my account. All of those that were not highlighted in yellow, you can see were reimbursed by inventory, meaning the product must have been resellable, so Amazon moved the product back into my inventory. Also important to understand. And then at the bottom, you can see some reimbursement reversals. Not so fun. These are cases where Amazon in their infinite wisdom went back and reclaimed one of the reimbursements that they had already given to me. That's a bummer. Okay, and then our last component to consider when thinking about sales are refunds. Refunds are a hot topic for a number of reasons. Well, let's start with how I got to see this data view. This is one that many people would be familiar with. You're just going to go to business reports, sales and traffic, and then on the right hand side you can filter on the columns portion in the right margin. And all I've done here is chosen or selected all of the different filters related to refunds. So you can see the number of units that were ordered and then the units that were refunded, as well as the refund rate for that specific date. So it's a good snapshot. However, take it with a grain of salt, because here we go again. The settlement report is actually the accurate place to find refund data, not the dashboard. What do I mean by that? The settlement report, again, which is related to the number or the actual financial payout that you're going to receive from Amazon, thinks about refunds differently. The settlement report charges refunds to the original date of purchase, whereas the sales dashboard charges refunds to the date of the refund. Let me give you an example of this. Let's say someone bought Jungle Sticks on January 1st and then decided to return them on January 20th. In the settlement report, the refund would show up on January 1st. it would refer back. It would retroactively go back and assign the refund to January 1st, the date that it was purchased. But on the sales dashboard, you're going to see a refund show up on January 20th, not on the date of purchase, but rather the date of the refund. So what I mean to say is that just be wary that the Seller Central dashboard does not necessarily relate to the reporting, the settlement reporting, and therefore doesn't necessarily relate to the payouts you're getting from Amazon. But that really wraps up all the major components needed to calculate sales. But with that said, I want to give you guys a free offer that's going to help you with refunds. At Fetcher, we realize that refunds are one of the biggest struggles for Amazon sellers. Amazon has sort of rigged the game in favor of the customer, and oftentimes sellers are left out to dry when it comes to refunds. That's one of the reasons we put together this 15-page practical guide to cutting down refunds. And we've had some pretty incredible results in terms of those customers who've already read the book and have applied the principles. Jonathan Weber, one of our customers, has been a seller for 4 years, started applying these principles before the holiday season, and his return rate actually went down in the holidays by 50%. And that's really remarkable because most people's went up. So there's some really interesting tips and techniques, I think, that you may not have considered before that we go over in great detail in this guide. So this is free for everyone who's attended this webinar today. If this is something you're interested in, take a look at the link. We're dropping it into the chat box right now, and you'll be off and running on a way to improving your refund rate. Okay, we're shifting focus to expenses now. Starting with the most troubling of all, the Amazon fees. Amazon fees have mystified people for years now. In order to get control of them, you got to know where to find them. So I'm giving you two views here. The dashboard view, which is a very common view that everyone's generally familiar with, under the reports and payment section, and the statement view. Here you can see the total Amazon fees during this period of time. But if you want to get into the real details, and ultimately you're trying to calculate your expenses, you're going to need to get into the settlement review, or rather the transaction report. So the transaction report can be found under Payments, Transaction View, and then you can click the button to download the report. So there's less details here than the settlement report, but this is a really quick and easy report to use for Amazon fees, and it's my favorite one for trying to get to Amazon fees. So you're going to need to sort by payment type, and then you can select Amazon fees, as I've done here in the transaction report on the right-hand side of the slide. And you can see that we've got all of our service fees, or what we call in Fetcher recurring fees. Those are things like inventory storage, inventory removal, etc. And we've got order payment fees. So these are just the typical transactional fees for when you want to sell or when you sell or ship a product. Those are your FBA fees. So you can see a comparison of those two. I've highlighted in yellow some recurring fees. Man, we got really crushed there with the FBA inventory storage fee in December, even though it's listed in January. That's reflective of December. But this is a great place where you can come, you can quickly grab all of that information and ultimately take it back into your big mega Excel file where we're going to calculate total profits. Okay, so you've got your Amazon fees. The next expenses section we're going to look at is cost of goods sold. So it's really important to note that cost of goods sold can't be managed in Seller Central. Amazon doesn't care about your cost of goods sold. And there's typically 3 of them that we're going to be thinking about. 3 of them that you're going to need to create a manual Excel file for and enter in the data yourself. The first one is shipping or freight forwarding. This is really typical for the private labeler or anyone who's manufacturing overseas. That is the cost of the freight forwarding transportation from your manufacturing site, let's say in China, to the United States if you're selling in the United States, and so it could be to LA. So the cost of shipping from China to LA. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about inbound shipping. Next, we have reshipping. Reshipping is the cost of getting the product from that warehouse that's in Los Angeles, for example, and shipping it to the San Bernardino warehouse. How are you getting it from Los Angeles to the fulfillment center in San Bernardino? A lot of people use Amazon's reshipping services. They offer really great rates, and so if you have reshipping services, or if you're utilizing reshipping from Amazon, that's fantastic. And then lastly, we have production cost. And that's the cost of producing your product. That's easy enough. How much does it cost you per unit to manufacture your product or acquire your product if you're a retail arbitrage buyer or someone like that? I like my picture here representing product costs. That's actually a 3D printer site in China. Looks a little bit different than your typical factory. 3D printing is really cool. So with cost of goods sold, not in Seller Central, you're going to need to make an Excel file and wrap up all this data yourself and then ultimately add it into the mega report. Advertising. Pay-per-click. Here's the campaign performance report. You get there easily by going to reports, advertising reports, and then the campaign performance report. And it's a nice line-by-line breakdown of every single spend dollar that goes into pay-per-click. So you're going to need to take that column called total spend and drag that into your total Excel file where you're going to calculate sales, expenses, and then later profitability. One thing to throw out about pay-per-click, a lot of people rely on the dashboard data that's in pay-per-click. And I just want everybody to be weary and realize that that is a constantly changing dashboard. The data is not totally reconciled. It doesn't necessarily relate 100% to your total payout or how much you're going to end up paying Amazon in advertising costs. So it also doesn't include your 30-day pay-per-click sales. 30-day pay-per-click sales are sales when someone takes your ad, clicks on your ad, and puts your product into their cart and saves it and holds on to it and then purchases it sometime prior to 30 days. Those are still considered sales. They're attested to pay-per-click, but the dashboard doesn't consider those, and therefore you might see some keyword that's underperforming when in reality loads of people are using that keyword, choosing your product, but just leaving it in their cart. So again, be wary of the pay-per-click dashboard. Lastly, we have what are called other business expenses. These are expenses that are not cost of goods sold and are not related to Amazon specifically. So here we go with some product photography imagery that's going on at the top left-hand corner. The rubber ducky, that's nice. You've got some supplies. Maybe you've got boxing and packaging supplies that are costing you money on a regular basis, as well as warehousing costs depicted by that image at the bottom. Maybe you have a staff or employees. Maybe you have software subscriptions. Obviously, there's loads of other business expenses. Those also need to get summarized into the Excel file. And with that, we're just about ready to calculate profitability. Okay, so we've covered all of the major sales and expenses components for Amazon sellers. So hopefully now you'll be able to consolidate all of these various data points into one massive Excel wizard file, as I call it. So to calculate your profits now, all you're going to need to do is run one final simple Excel formula. Equals, sum, left parentheses, then input your sales, minus, then input your expenses, and close the parentheses and hit enter. Unfortunately, guys, your report might look a little something like this. At least I know mine did the first time I tried to create a wizard report. The Dos Equis guy really nails my thoughts exactly here. This Excel work is really overwhelming. It's a complex solution to a really complex problem. And that leaves me to wonder, or should leave us all wondering, are there any better solutions out there? So the question really is, what do we need a better solution to do? 1, we need it to pull multiple Seller Central reports. 2, we need it to build a cost of goods sold file and then another file for other business expenses, all the stuff that Amazon doesn't know about. 3rd, we're going to need it to synchronize everything into one mass file. 4th, we're going to need to set up formulas or macros for the Excel specialists out there to calculate all the metrics properly, and obviously we need those formulas functioning properly. And then 5th, we're going to need to do this on a repetitive basis. We need it to maintain itself. We can't spend the time to update the file every few days or whatever. So we're going to need it to do this and show data on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. Some people would even like to see it on an hourly basis. So I can tell you guys, one time I spent the afternoon, or really what accounted to more of like a full day's work, trying to build and test formulas and macros. Great, right? Well, it wasn't until I had the file and was maintaining the file that I realized I was going to have to put in hours of effort each time I just wanted to update it as time goes on and as sales continue. 3 months later, I realized I didn't include shipping credit refunds, as I told you guys earlier in the webinar. And then on top of that, I was really confused about how to integrate all the constantly changing PPC campaigns with 1-day sales, 7-day sales, 30-day sales. That's about the time that I gave up, and that's about the time that I realized there needed to be a better solution. and Fetcher is that better solution. So Fetcher makes 2016 profit calculations super easy. You can see on this dashboard image that we calculated profits in 1.5 seconds, and it's got all the details you could possibly need there. So we're showing sales, we're showing costs or expenses, and we're showing profit, all calculated instantly. The bar graph shows units sold and profit for every single day of the year for 2016, if you're curious about trend lines and that sort of information. And then if you were to scroll down on this dashboard, you'd also see an inventory management tool that'll help you ensure you never run out of stock of your best-selling products. It's all right there in the dashboard page. Here's one of my favorite pages. This is the profit and loss statement. Here you see your monthly totals summarized and compared. So you've got revenue at the top and you've got expenses at the bottom, just like a standard profit and loss statement, and you can adjust the date as you see fit. If you want to look at 2 years worth of data, if you want to look at 3 months worth of data, it's instant. I'm showing about, 5 months worth of data here, and I can see how performance trended. I really like this look because I can see how my cost of goods sold might have adjusted over time, meaning did my shipments become more and more expensive, or did they become less expensive, that sort of thing. And at the same time, I can also see how fees have changed from month to month. So it's really awesome as I can get a comparison of how my cost of goods sold changed and how my Amazon fees shifted over time. But this really is an all-in-one inclusive view of the business. Really this shows any person who is to walk by and take a look exactly how this particular Seller Central account performed over the 5-month period that are selected. This is a very comprehensive look. So as I see sales, I also see refunds, reimbursements, and promos deducted, just as we talked about in the early half of the section. And then with expenses, all of those various costs or expenses are deducted for my total gross margin and net profit. A really great way to see the health of my business in an instant. Oh, and by the way, one last comment on the profit and loss. Very helpful for tax time. Taxes are right around the corner. The P&L page helps a lot. Now here's another favorite, the product breakdown page. Here I'm showing our bamboo marshmallow s'mores roasting sticks, more commonly known as Jungle Sticks, the Jungle Scout charity product of choice. So this product is shown, and I'm able to easily toggle between all the other products in this particular Seller Central account. If you have multiple Seller Central accounts from multiple international marketplaces, no problem. You can toggle between all of those different accounts and between all of those different products so you can see at a product level how your business or how that product is performing. And remember, the Seller Central dashboard really does fail to do this for you well. It's not easy to look at your product breakdown or SKU breakdown. Here it is in Fetcher, quick and easy. And we talked about how mystifying Amazon fees can be. Well, in the expenses tab here, the product breakdown tab, but under the expenses section, the cost section, this pie chart, I can quickly and easily drill down into each slice of the pie chart. So before I had expanded down into this section and looked at specific fees, I was looking at orders fees. So I clicked on orders fees, and now I can see each one of the Amazon fees over the assigned date range and how they contribute to my overall costs. Really helpful if you're trying to get control of those Amazon fees and understanding their effects on the business. How about advertising? Well, pay-per-click dashboard, we've got it covered, and it's a few steps better than the Seller Central one, let me tell you. We've got 1-day sales, 7-day sales, and 30-day sales, all three metrics standing there side by side, and you can see how those are quite different and therefore might impact the way you're managing your campaigns and your keywords. So overall, if you're someone who struggles with pay-per-click, I think you're going to love that we'll be able to show you all of your campaigns for every product in one easy place, and it's really just helpful for making decisions about how to move forward with your advertising campaigns. So guys, that's Fetcher in a nutshell. We're trying to take the very difficult and make it very simple. Amazon sellers need to worry about their business. They don't need to be worried about how to collect data. Fetcher is going to take that data for you and translate it to you in a way that's going to be easy to digest, is going to give you complete confidence in how your business is performing, and allow you to set better targets for the upcoming year. 2017 is right ahead of us, and I've got a special offer for everyone who's attended the webinar today. This is the very first time we've given a 50% offer. Here's what we're going to do for you. We're dropping in a link into the chat box right now. That link's going to get you 50% off your second month of Fetcher. Your first month is going to be completely free. 31-day free trial, get to know Fetcher. If you don't like what you see, you can cancel. I think it's a good idea to get in there and at least see how your business performed in 2016. At the very least, sign up for Fetcher and confirm or deny your assumptions about how your business performed, what your profitability was in 2016. And if you don't want to use the product any longer, no problem, you can bail out. But if you want to stick around for the second month, we're going to give it to you 50% off. So that's a pretty sweet offer, and this is the only time we've ever offered it. It's in the chat box right now, guys. Before you take off, I promised some tips for 2017 and ways to improve your profitability. So here we go. For 2017, I've been talking with lots of Amazon sellers about what they think the best opportunities are. And so I'm going to share with you guys 4 little tips or techniques that I think will help everybody in terms of gross margin and profitability for 2017. The first one is really obvious, and I already stated it. You've got to be confident in your 2016 numbers so that you can set good goals for 2017. So be sure about your 2017 goals by being confident in your 2016 numbers. Fetcher can help you there. Use the 50% off, get going. Secondly, focus on inventory. Turn over your inventory every 6 months to avoid long-term storage fees. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see Amazon sellers making on a regular basis. You don't want to get stuck with a 6-month long-term inventory storage fee. Therefore, you've got to be thinking about ways to improve and turn over your inventory. Fetcher can help you there by setting targets and showing you how much more inventory you've got left and when you're going to run out. Also related to inventory, during the fourth quarter of 2017, I think we've all learned our lesson, and we need to only stock the amount of inventory that's going to sell. Amazon has been bumping up their fees, their storage fees during the holiday period, and they're going to do it again in 2017. So get ahead of that now and be focused on inventory. Thirdly, cut down your refunds. We've offered the refunds ebook. It's still in the chat box right now if you guys want to take a look at it. Refunds are just so critically costly for Amazon sellers, and it's probably one of the best areas where you can make improvements and get some gains on your profits. So one way to do that is by using automated emails to follow up with customers the minute they request a refund through Amazon. So you want to quickly get feedback to improve the quality if there's a problem. So getting in touch with your customers and finding out if there's a quality issue so you can fix it. Secondly, ensuring that you don't get negative feedback. It goes a long way to make a relationship with a customer. I've often seen it done where customers are talked down off the edge, or the ledge rather. They're about to leave some nasty feedback or a nasty review, but because their provider, their seller got in touch with them, that sort of just softened things a little bit. Maybe the seller offers a special discount on the next product, whatever it takes to prevent negative feedback and negative reviews. That's going to be really helpful. So in general there, by following up with automated email campaigns, you can really cut down on your refunds. One tool that we recommend is JumpSend. JumpSend.com does automated email campaigns. And then lastly, here's a big one. Amazon is expanding internationally. And if you want to be on the bandwagon, you need to be thinking about many marketplaces internationally, like the United Kingdom, like Canada, like Germany. Some of those are the top sellers, especially the UK and Germany, are great places to consider offering your product. There could be lower competition, could be more upside opportunities. So those are some real good tips I think that'll help people as they're thinking about how to make improvements in 2017. Okay guys, that does it for the webinar today. If you're interested in taking advantage of the 50% off second month for Fetcher, still with the first month being free, I need to let you know that the offer is only going to be available for 30 minutes after I close this webinar window. We really only want to make the offer available to those people who have attended the webinar today. So it's going to be a short-term offer. I hope that it's something you're interested in and will take advantage of. If there's anything you need from us in the future, please don't hesitate to contact us at hello@fetcher.com. Our customer support team is standing by around the clock, ready to handle your issues or your questions related to Fetcher. I handle a number of those myself, and I'd love to meet you personally. Thanks everyone for attending, and good luck to you all in 2017.